And welcome to the podcast, guys, with Rob and Nando. Today we have a special guest on the show. Before we welcome her and have her introduce herself, make sure you subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram, the podcast guys _, and TikTok, the podcast guys _. And also make sure you follow us on Rumble. We're going to get on there more and more. So let's go ahead and introduce our lovely guest. Make sure you tell us your name, age, highest level of education, your dating status, and we have a little bit more after that. But let's start with those four.
All right. So, Katherine, I'm 37 years old, college degree, and what was that? Oh, relationship status, single, not dating, not even talking to anybody. Yeah.
Awesome. And now we're going to get a little bit deeper. You have a podcast, right? The podcast is called Men's Health is Dope. Why don't you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So, Men's Health is Dope came to life after I saw a post that said the first time a man will receive flowers is at his funeral.
Yeah, sad to hear. And
pretty deep.
Yeah, it's almost like saying that men are only valued when something drastic happens or, you know. But anyway, so yes, I decided to create a platform, a podcast, to offer a space for men to share their stories about any challenges or obstacles they may have had to overcome as simply for being a man, and to give that safe space for them to voice these stories.
And you call it a men's empowerment podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. That's great.
Where could everyone find your podcast? Let them know where it's,
What platforms?
what platform.
Yeah. Spotify right now. Men's Health is Dope on Spotify.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's great because there's not a lot of women on the men's side, and understanding what men go through nowadays in dating, what they've gone through, not just now in 2024, but in years past, how difficult things have been. So it's great to have that support and have that understanding from the female perspective as well. So I guess let's get into it. We'll dive into, bits and pieces of your podcast throughout our podcast today. What's one of the things that men struggle with the most in 2024 when it comes to dating, in your view?
I would say the first thing that comes to mind is that they encounter toxic women, women that have not done the inner work to know themselves, to love themselves, women that have been conditioned to believe that men are financial providers, although provision is infrastructure. So there's a lot of things that come when I think about that question. A lot of obstacles. Maybe a woman who hasn't done the inner work with herself, might see that man as, I don't know, it's like he's not meeting certain criteria like salary range or.
So pretty much women's standards are a little extra high to be maybe nice about it.
Women's standards are very surface level. They're superficial. They lack value and core values and morals. So I feel like that's a big obstacle that men face.
100%. I mean, men are struggling, and that's one of the struggles that women see them, talk to them, and right off rip, it's, I don't want this guy's disqualified. I don't want to deal with him. Yeah. Even without him speaking, just by looking at him, the first few seconds, it's just like, oh, nope, next.
Without knowing the substance of that man.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you actually said that they're conditioned, because I agree with you 100%. I really, from what I see, it really feels like women are being conditioned. I don't think it ended up this way kind of like by chance. Right. I think women are truly being conditioned to have that mentality, to treat men as like, oh, either you're, sending me money, or you're buying me stuff, or you're spoiling me, or don't even waste my time, which is a really toxic mentality.
100%. I mean, it seems to be fair to say that men are loved for what they provide, not for who they are themselves.
Mm-hmm. And more specifically, I would say, because provision can come from the substance of a man, not just his pockets. So I'm like, it's not a, like, he can provide in other ways that are way deeper than finances. And this is why I say that a lot of women, toxic women, of course, I'm not speaking for the healthy feminine women out
Of course.
there, but, you know, they focus on money. Somehow a dollar sign has been attached to a man when a man's value is so much deeper than that. So
100%. I mean, that's their focus. You know, usually I see men, and even myself through experience, one of the first questions that I'm asked is, what do you do for work? So
Right.
that just goes to show that women are looking for, okay, what can he do for me? And if he can't do enough for me, if it doesn't seem like enough, then I don't want to deal with him.
And to take it a step further, even if, and again, this won't apply to all women, but there are women that will take advantage of you financially. And even if you do send her money or spend money on her, take her out to
never
dinner,
enough.
buy her stuff, it's not enough. And at some point, she might be doing it with multiple guys, or she may just take advantage and like not have any genuine interest in you. And I think nowadays, that's something that guys really have to like be mindful of, because I think the trap that some guys can fall into, I think every guy falls into this trap, especially when you're younger, is you go into it with this like good intention, like, oh, if I show her I'm a good man, I'm a good guy, and I spend money on her, that she'll see me for who I am, and it doesn't really work that way, and you find out the hard way.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny because we talk about women wanting to be provided for, but what are your thoughts on independent women? Women want to be independent. They want to be boss babes. They want to work for their money, but they still want a guy to provide for them. So is it fair to say that women shouldn't be looking for a provider if they can provide for themselves?
financially, I mean, so the way I think about independent women is, yes, as a woman, you should be your own person. You should have your own interests, your own hobbies, things that bring you joy, you know, be established in terms of like a career, job, a business, whatever it is that looks like what looks like for you. You should definitely be your own person outside. Like, the man should not be your whole being. You should be able to be your own being outside that relationship. So if a woman is financially established herself or financially free, then that, from my own view, I would not be seeking that, you know,
From a man?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if he does it, I mean, I know healthy masculine men, they naturally want to provide
Right.
financially, and that's fine. But don't adopt the mindset like, I don't need a man for shit. So if he wants to provide genuinely, not like transactionally, like forced, you know, then it should be welcome, you know.
Of course. I mean, it should be natural. It shouldn't be like, okay, I'm sitting here.
Or
waiting.
like, oh, here goes my fucking bills.
Right.
Like, you're expected to cover them, or like whatever, or take me here, or take, like, you know, like, oh.
Yeah, I think that really causes a relationship to truly rupture. You know, when it gets to that boiling point and it just explodes, and, you know, the
Yeah.
man is like, I've had enough.
And, you know, in all honesty, I think in general, men don't have any issue with women making their own money and being independent financially in that sense, having their own business, because a lot of women are doing that and they're very successful at it. I think it's the mentality that can result from it, where they start to say the mindset that comes from it, because in all honesty, to be a successful business owner and make money, you kind of have to have that mindset. So I think that's where it starts to affect the relationship between men and women, because they start to take on that more masculine, assertive type of energy, and it just doesn't work in a relationship sense. For business, it's great. For relationships, not really.
Yeah, like, it reminds me of a post that I saw. It says, don't be so independent that you don't let a man be a man.
Perfect.
Boom.
You know, so
I haven't
it's
heard that
like,
one. That's great.
Love it.
Like, that's why I said, like, it's okay, be your own person. You should be.
Absolutely.
You should be whole and, you know, secure with yourself. So that way you're not seeking that from another person.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll create that space to allow the man to be a man. If he wants to provide for you, then let him do it genuinely and be appreciative of whatever he decides to provide for you genuinely.
Yeah, natural is better. I mean, the expectation of going into a relationship and having him make it rain all over you is not realistic at all. You know, it doesn't make sense. So women should focus on being more feminine and accepting that a man, you know, he's going to go out of his way to take care of you, but not be like, I'm going to go into the relationship as a masculine woman and demand that he takes care of
you
me.
You have to check these boxes and meet.
You know, it's interesting because I know women personally that, and this is another thing I wanted to get into, is like what salary women are expecting men to make nowadays. Because I know women personally that, you know, went to college, they got a master's degree, and now they're making good money, and they're turning guys down that make 100K, 150K because it's still not enough, which is kind of crazy because we know as guys, most guys don't make anywhere near that. And, you know, I'm not saying 100K is a lot of money because nowadays it isn't. But, again, most men don't even make anywhere near that. So when you have guys that are getting turned down and they're making like 130K a year, it's like, what the hell? Like, how much do you really expect this guy's going to make, you know?
Exactly. I mean, they look at that as, well, what kind of lifestyle am I going to get from this guy? That's
It's
what
transactional.
It's transactional. And, you know, everything is transactional to a certain extent, but it shouldn't be just like that in that situation, purely transactional. Like, okay, he has to make $300,000 a year, you know, or $30,000 a month or whatever the case is, you know, because that's a relationship that's just going to go down the toilet fast.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of women have a misconception, again, or, you know, the misinformed, right? So they've been misinformed somehow. What makes a man is his salary range, and that is not the case at all. Like, a man provides in so many other ways. Is literally its infrastructure. Like, he provides, you know, he sets the tone in the home. Like, he provides, you know, he provides by leading, guidance, decision making. Like, there's so many other ways that a man shows up that a salary range really is superficial.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
Has nothing to do with values.
And you bring up a good point. Leading, a man should be leading. Now, when women have to follow, should they have an attitude about being followers? Should they have an issue with following their man in the relationship? Because it seems like a lot of women have a problem being led by a man.
Yeah, I mean, if they're with a masculine man, there should not be an issue. Yeah. So, but I believe, like, if there is an issue, and he is a masculine man, if there is an issue, it's because she hasn't done the inner work within herself to be feminine, and to, you know, just like two alpha dogs, like they don't belong in the same house together. It's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. You know, we're designed, like, men are designed to be masculine, women are designed to be feminine, and that's just the way it flows. That's the way it works.
Yeah, that makes sense to me, because I wouldn't necessarily say like, oh, I'm here and I'm an alpha and this and that, but I have a similar personality where there's an alpha male, a strong male that, you know, I've gone head to head with, because, you know, there's some things that we disagree on, and we don't, you know, physically fight, but we, you know, there's a good argument in there. So, like you said, when you put two alphas together, it's not a good mix at all.
I think generally men don't want to be with a woman that's challenging in that sense. Every relationship is going to have challenges, of course. You're going to have arguments, stuff like that.
But it'll be different.
But it's different.
Yeah, it's not toxic. It's not
exactly.
You know, it's not unhealthy. Like, it's
when it gets to the point where it's like, you know, and some women will do it. They'll talk down to you. They'll disrespect you publicly. Raise their voice, and you know, as a man, you have to keep your cool. That's a part of being a masculine too, right? Like, you can't get emotional, and like some guys, that's how they end up in jail. They act out, they can't control their emotions, and that's the result. You have to stay calm, but realistically, you're not going to have a happy, fulfilling relationship at all with somebody like that. And so that's one of the main struggles, I think, nowadays for guys: finding a woman that you're not only attracted to, but somebody that's not going to be toxic. That's feminine.
That's not,
yeah, simply put.
Not many women that are feminine. And
yeah.
I think if a woman is disrespecting a man in that way, or in any way for that matter, because you don't need to disrespect at all.
Yeah, there shouldn't be at all.
She's not feminine, because feminine women do not do that.
Well, let me play devil's advocate for a second. Should we put a little degree of blame on men for maybe going about themselves in a feminine way? Because women are like, well, I need to be masculine because my man acts like a lady.
I hear that a lot.
Or acts feminine. So should we put a little bit of blame on men? Even though, again, I'm here defending the guys in this situation because the guys are, really going through it when it comes to masculine and feminine roles. But, should some men wake up and be like, hey, I have to start taking more leadership. I have to start taking the role of the masculine role, so she follows along with what I like to do and make this relationship go in the right direction.
I think that's a couple of things come to mind. The first thing that comes to mind is that I've witnessed women kind of using that as an excuse to not build their femininity. Like, at the end of the day, we have to take accountability for ourselves, for our actions, how we respond in our relationship.
Yep.
How we, the things that we pour into, our relationship, our man, we have to take accountability for that. So we can play the blame game all day long. But did you look in the fucking mirror?
Yeah. I see that because we control ourselves. We can't control anybody else. So
Yes.
Women can't just say, well, he's acting like a little puss, so I'm going to take the masculine role and run, take that flag and run with it. Mm-hmm. She still should find a way to keep her femininity.
100%. And plus, we go to the gym. From what I'm seeing, a lot of the younger generation, they're big into working out. A lot of these guys are in shape. So in my eyes, they're pretty athletic, pretty masculine. I don't know them personally, so I don't know, what kind of friendship and relationships they have. But from what I'm seeing, I agree with you. I think in some cases they use it as like a cop-out. And in reality, whether that guy's feminine or masculine, she should be feminine all the time. Men are expected to be masculine all the time. We can't pick and choose when we do it. We can't turn feminine because we're in the presence of a man. If you were to reverse it, it wouldn't make sense. Like, oh, well, the reason I'm feminine is because I'm in the presence of a masculine woman. No, you should always be that way. Otherwise, you're just temporarily being that way.
Of course.
It's artificial. So.
Absolutely. Now, on this topic, how about feminism in general? Has feminism been a whole lie to women everywhere? Just the general topic of feminism. Them trying to say that, well, we're not equal, so, we use feminism to make ourselves equal to a man.
I've seen that. I've definitely seen that. And I'm like, that is not what feminine is.
So the women are using it in the wrong way, feminism. It's not being used for what it was meant for.
Right, I've witnessed that. For sure. Yeah, it's the whole being and definition of being feminine, and being a woman, really, because that's what it is, being a real woman, has been misconstrued and been just it's been misconstrued and turned around where men are perceived to be just dollar signs. So
I mean, it's used it's used negatively for sure.
Yeah, it is. A lot of misinformation has gone around. I've come across women teaching about feminism or femininity or feminine, however you put it, saying that, well, if he doesn't pay the whole bill on the first date, that's a red flag. And they're preaching this to other women, and I'm like, you're pouring toxicity into other women. You're teaching them to not put down their red flags and try to build up a green flag. It's bad. It's bad out there.
I think feminism has poisoned women's minds, if anything. And there are some women that I do come across on social media that are waking up and they're like, enough with this feminism movement. There's no need for it. I mean, you can kind of say, for the most part, that women have more rights than men. They have more advantages than men. I mean, men can't go into a club and get into VIP for free. Women can. Men can't go on a yacht and get in for free and drink for free. For the most part, women can.
It definitely comes off like a holier than thou type of.
It basically comes down to if you're an attractive woman, you're getting all the perks. As a man, it doesn't matter if you're tall, short, good looking, in shape or not. You're not getting any of those benefits unless you're somebody, you make a certain amount of money, or you pay your way in. There's no easy way out.
Yeah. And then that trains women to have that sense of entitlement. Well, I can just get it, so I'm entitled to it.
Yeah, because they didn't have to do anything to get it. They were just
Right.
existing, and that's it. I mean, men built the yachts. Men have to pay to get on the yachts. You know what I'm saying? So, like, how does it make sense? And, you know, the way things have played out, I really hope it does change because, you know, it seems to be like it's still going in the negative direction. But I do give credit to some women. They're waking up and they're saying, why does feminism exist? You know, this is why I'm having trouble finding a man. But there's also women out there that are using feminism as, you know, a way to get out of certain things and to get their advantages in life.
Yeah, and like everything we discussed so far, like we talk about all the time, this is why so many men are kind of stepping away from dating. Some guys have given up altogether. This is why you have an explosion of these like red pill channels, and you know everybody thinks they're misogynist, but that's not really what it's about at all. It's about like discussing these type of issues, and some guys just, you know, I don't believe that the right answer is to just give up on dating. I don't believe in that. Like, oh well, it's tough, so let me just give up altogether. I don't think that's, like you said earlier, like you can control what you can control, right? Work harder, get in shape, work on your social skills, change your social circle up. But at the end of the day, we can't control women and we can't control movements like that. So,
Yeah, exactly. And to add on with this whole feminism thing, OnlyFans. What's your thoughts on OnlyFans? Should OnlyFans go away at some point? I mean, it seemed, you know, they've made tons and tons of money over the years, and you know the women on there are reaping benefits. You know, we understand times are tough, but there's no excuses. Should, you know, what do you see as the future of OnlyFans, and what are your thoughts on OnlyFans?
Yeah, the future of OnlyFans, I see it going nowhere.
Yeah, definitely see it going nowhere. But in terms of, you know, the women and my view on it, it's just filled with women who don't know who the fuck they are and haven't done the work within themselves to know that they have skills, gifts, talents that they can use to make money, to be successful, to be wealthy. And, you know, I've witnessed and come across a lot of women that have said, well, you know, well, I gotta make my money. I gotta put food on the table. I gotta, you know, whatever. But if you knew yourself, if you truly knew yourself and you loved yourself, you would know that, you know, that there were other ways that you could make money.
Yeah, I think women that have gone into, you know, OnlyFans or any, you know, sex related type of work, being promiscuous and things of that nature, they're lost, flat out. They're lost, and they use their looks to get to places. But the thing is that, you know, looks eventually fade. So as much as we'll say that OnlyFans looks like is going nowhere, the women eventually change because, you know, women can't stay on OnlyFans forever. So how about for those women that try to get a job or try to do something after OnlyFans? Women in the porn industry also. They do porn and they try to go out and do something else. Some of them regret it, some of them don't, but when they try to do that something else, you know, people see what they've done in the past and they disqualify them. So, you know, what are the chances for those women in their futures after that kind of work?
and that's the problem, is that short term, it's an easy cash grab. I could see why they're enticed to do it, because you could potentially make $100,000. You can make over $1 million depending how you market yourself. But at what cost? Because you can't reverse that. If you do that for 5 years or 10 years, and you get to an age where you say, "Hey, I'm done with this," or maybe I'm too old now, or I want to settle down, you can't reverse the fact that you did that. And when a guy finds, you could hide it, but when a guy finds out, because eventually he will, right, through gossip, or he'll see you,
It's definitely gonna be a turn off.
it's a turn off. And I can't imagine a guy wanting to date, never mind marry or have kids with somebody like that, because the embarrassment that comes along with it, and like mentally you wouldn't be able to even handle it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Like, yeah, not just for jobs, for relationships. Do women have a future in either after that kind of work?
not if a man discovers, a masculine man discovers that. Hell no. No, absolutely not. I mean, I know they say, you know, don't judge a person by their past, but I feel like this is the one exception that you have to judge and be like, no, I can't make you a wife.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Not sorry.
Yeah, sorry, not sorry. I mean that's a sad thing, but you know you can't feel too bad because at the end
They
of the
did
day,
it to themselves.
they did it to themselves. Took the words right out of my mouth. Yep, they did it to themselves.
Accountability.
So the best thing to do is for any ladies watching this that are thinking about getting into that, sex work or like porn or OnlyFans type of deal, don't do it. Because
Fast money, slow problems is what'll eventually happen in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, and you see some women regret it afterwards. Even we'll bring up Mia Khalifa. I don't know if you've heard of Mia Khalifa, but she used to be a former porn star that she came out and she regretted being in the porn industry. Along with some others too. But she says that she shouldn't be judged on her past, but I mean, I don't think that's up to her to decide. It's up to the guys that are looking to date, women such as Mia Khalifa. So I think that's...
Yeah, a lot of women that get out of porn, they end up going on YouTube and like you could just see that they're having like emotional breakdowns and regrets, and you could just see it in how they talk about it that they deeply regret it, and like you said, like it's people are gonna judge you for it,
Yeah. I mean, that's, when you're trying to get into some sort of commitment or relationship with a woman and you see that, I mean, obviously that's a big red flags. That's a big red flag right there. Something that men should avoid completely. Shouldn't even be involved with that type of woman.
Plus, it must take an emotional toll on them. Even all relationships and jobs aside, I mean, if you do that for a certain amount of time, when you finally stop, it has to. Like when you start to play all those memories back in your head, it's got to, affect you emotionally. So.
Big time. But yeah, that definitely is a big red flag for men.
Yeah.
That they find in women. Are there some, other red flags that you consider that women, can appear to men when men try to date these women? Any red flags that women usually, are obvious that they have?
Oh yeah, plenty. I mean,
Other than some of the things that we've spoken about.
oh man.
I guess maybe what's your top three red flags that women have?
Attention seeking.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
attention.
How dare you?
Yeah, I mean, like constantly, on social media posting, or just even when she's out with friends, like it doesn't matter, all around, in person, on social media, whatever. It's constantly attention seeking. Yeah.
You have another one that comes to mind aside from attention is big.
Yeah.
Every woman to some degree tries to get some sort of attention. Could be on social media. Could even be within
but
her own
there's,
relationship.
There's a line that should be drawn.
Yeah. That's excessive. I mean, there's, stories posted every day and, selfies and, after the gym or even at the gym.
Not only out, but in the relationship, it could be big trouble too, because she's constantly going to be seeking the attention of her partner, and of course you want to spend time with each other, give each other's undivided attention, but it's like she's not going to respect his space, she's not going to let him breathe, or just
Plus, as guys, we know that guys are thirsty, and if a woman posts attractive pictures on any platform, Instagram is the most common one, you're going to have DMs like crazy. You're going to have guys offering all types of crazy stuff, sending you nudes, offering you trips, trying to send you money, try to get you to meet up. So we know how it is. Women hear that and they say like, oh, well, men are insecure. A secure man wouldn't do that. And again, that's just manipulation. It has nothing to do with insecurity.
Yeah,
we know how guys are. We know exactly what's going on in those DMs, and we're just simply trying to avoid it.
And it's just another excuse to say I don't want to be accountable for my own actions. But the next one that comes to my mind is she doesn't care about her health. She doesn't care about her body or the way she,
Substance abuse, overweight, things like that.
Drinking,
Yeah.
things like that.
yeah,
Or just
everything that you mentioned.
not going to the gym. I mean, I do see there's some fitness gurus nowadays popping up here and there, but
I mean, there's different ways that you could get fitness in. I know like the gym specifically isn't for everyone. Like I love going to the gym, but I know that's not like every woman. But there is other ways, like to get your
fitness or exercising. Like some women, they like to bike. They like to go biking. Whatever, boxing, whatever, like whatever that looks like for them. The point is that you care about your health. You care about what you put in your body. You care about how you look. You care about, not just the physical, but like your character, like all of that is part of health. Like how you treat people, how you speak to people, how you look, how you hold yourself, how, you respond to others. Being emotionally, regulated and emotionally intelligent, like all of that is part of health. And some women just really don't care about that. And they think slapping on some makeup and doing your hair and your nails that is going to cover up all your inner issues. But, it might for a few moments, but then everything is going to come out. So what's in the dark will come to the light.
Yeah, once the makeup comes off, there's no going back.
The ironic thing about it is, and we've had women here that like said that like, oh, well, men are really like superficial because they only care about a woman's looks. We only care about her body. We only care about, how her face looks. But in reality, we look for a lot more than that. And I think they fail to realize that because they're kind of contradicting themselves. Like it's not just about the looks. Looks are important. That's probably number one. It's the first thing we look at. But once you get to know a woman and she's toxic or crazy or like, another thing I look for is even like who her friends are. Because when you meet her friends and you see they're like, hoeing around or they're like the party type, it's exactly what they're going to sucker her into doing the same thing. So I think you kind of have to watch out like who her friends are and who she spends time with as well.
Yeah, I think her surroundings are important. If she's hanging out around the wrong people, then they're going to bring, her down to their level.
No doubt about it.
She might be doing well in certain aspects of her life, but once she, hangs around, some of her friends, some of them might be single. She might be dating someone, and they'll be like, well, hey, you shouldn't be with him. He did, A, B, and C.
Yeah, I think who you surround yourself with is,
Huge.
especially me as a woman, like it says a lot. Like my dad always said, you are who you surround yourself by.
Yeah,
100%. I mean, how's your circle? What kind of circle do you have? Like, is it women that motivate you?
Yes, like-minded women, feminine women. We empower each other. We encourage each other. We don't pour toxicity into each other. And if we do a girls' trip, it's, business related or goal oriented or something like towards like, growth. Not, partying or clubbing or anything like that. Like we're literally adding value to each other's lives. So yeah.
Which is good because that's really like positive reinforcement. There's nothing I think it's great. It's good.
Yeah. I think it's funny because a lot of these things that women can do are such easy fix, or preventable. Don't smoke, don't drink, don't be a hot mess. Don't go crazy with the makeup. Guys, yes, we look for a lot in women too, but our list is this high and women's list is this high. So yes, we look for a good amount, but I think it's something realistic. I think it's feasible because when men are looking for women, they don't want, a nasty bitch for one. They want someone that's going to be nice for the most part. Women are like, oh, we don't like nice guys. We get that women don't want a nice guy for the most part. They want a bad boy. But for guys, it's the other way around. Men want a nice woman. They want to come home to peace. If she's living with that guy, if they're that far in the relationship or married, they want peace. So the looks is what brings a guy into that woman, and then she can carry it the rest of the way if she does it the right way, if she likes that guy.
Well, if she's a woman of substance, yeah, not a rough draft sketch or an imitation of.
Yeah, like fake. A lot of women are, they look fake, they act fake. It's unfortunate, but don't say I'm misogynist or anything like that. But fake eyelashes, the fake hair extensions, the implants, the BBLs. I mean, I can go on and on and on. So these things can be done in a natural way. For the most part.
Something I wanted to get your opinion on. I want to get a female perspective on this. We've done episodes on how like women purposely shit test men. We know it's a thing, right? They might do or say something to test you to see how you'll react to it, or like just to see who you are as a person, right? What do you think are some common ways that women like test men?
A common one that I've seen is like
trying to provoke jealousy.
Okay.
I've seen that a lot.
Mention a guy's name or something like that and see if he like reacts.
Yeah, or even like if they're out together, like, you know, approaching another man or something like that. Like I've seen that.
What do you think?
That's also a no-go. Women shouldn't do that.
How would you say a man passes that test? How does he fail that test? In that specific example, a guy's seen a girl, she mentions some guy's name, some guy that she met up with or something. How does that guy pass that test? How does he fail it? Should he be non-reactive and act like non-bothered by it? Should he call her out on it? Should he show jealousy?
I think it depends on the woman. Because some women
may want the guy to show that he cares, and some may think that the guy's like a jealous psychopath.
Some women, their perceptions are like.
So yeah, that's a good point. Actually,
so they might want to see a reaction, and they'll think, oh, he cares because he punched the guy in the face and he reacted.
Good point.
And then if he doesn't react, then it could be received, oh, well, he doesn't care. But then for another woman, if he doesn't react, she's like, oh, he's a mature.
He's calm.
Man or whatever. He's calm.
Yeah.
He's not going
to make a big deal about it.
So it just really depends on the woman.
And this is why men get really confused, because I come to think of it, you're absolutely right. Like, there is no like one way to react to all shit tests, because it'll depend on the woman. If a woman tries to make you jealous, it's not cookie cutter at all. You may think you're doing the right thing by being nonchalant and acting like you don't care, and then she's gonna say, he doesn't give a shit about me. He didn't care that I mentioned that I met up with a guy earlier. You know what I mean?
Ridiculous. So do colleges have mind readers 101 classes or what? Because how do guys try to understand these women when, one woman is going to act one way, another woman is going to act a different way? How do guys, how are they prepared for these situations? And sometimes you just can't be prepared. You just kind of have to go with the flow for the most part.
A very common one that's mentioned like on male channels is and this usually happens early on, like when you maybe go on a first date, is like she'll ask you to hold her purse, like a compliance test. Like she'll try to get you to do something to see if you comply. Do you agree? Is that a real thing? Like if a woman tells the guy that she just met on a first date at a restaurant, like, hey, can you hold my purse? Because what I generally hear is they'll say like, well, if you hold it for her, you just failed the test. If you tell her like, no, I don't do that, like I'm good, like, put it on the side or something like that, that'll be the proper way to react to it. Is that another one that'll depend on the woman, or is that kind of like?
I think it's fucking stupid.
It is stupid.
And I've never, honestly, never witnessed that, and I never come across that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Maybe that's one that's kind of really, not even a thing.
But it's like, no, I'm sure it's happened somewhere.
Yeah.
How about, because I know it's a touchy subject, but I know that you've talked about it on your podcast. Men suffering in silence. Those guys that are going through it, they're going through it alone. They don't have anybody to turn to. Hopefully they're turning to us and watching us help them out here with some words of advice and encouragement. But those guys that they think that they may have very little hope to no hope. What do you have to say to those guys? How can you encourage them to be hopeful and see that there's a future for them in dating?
Oh,
there is no hope.
That has to be something.
No, of course.
There's. It's tough. It's tough out here for men.
It is.
There's more good men than there is women. And that's just from what I've witnessed. Obviously, I know there's like zillions of people on this planet, but I guess the hope is, continue to, prioritize yourself, your health, everything, and, just educate yourself on the green flags, because I think a lot of times when two people come together, they tend to ignore the red flags for looks or for things, and it's just like they fall into that trap.
So it'd be best for men to focus on themselves first, improve their lives first.
Absolutely.
In every aspect.
Yeah.
And then, that's gym, making money, taking care of themselves, hair, facial wise, everything, building their status up. And then, once they're ready for a woman, then they can start diving into that realm of their lives where they start trying to date and focus on the positives.
Yeah, for sure. And I honestly, when I think about a man prioritizing himself, or even a woman, but we're talking about men right now, that even in a relationship, that shouldn't change.
Very good point.
You
People
know,
let themselves
and
go.
It's counterculture. Like, it's counterculture to say, like, a man should be priority in a relationship. Like, he should prioritize himself in a relationship, because toxic women are so set on being the fucking priority. And a man should always prioritize himself, because it's like, how can he give, like, anything if he's not allowed to take care of himself? Like, you know, some women toxic women make a big deal. Like, let's say if he wants to go hang out with friends, or even just hit the gym, take care, like, you know, they make a big stink about it, and then it like trickles into something like else. And then, you know, good men, they wanna, you know, I guess, see their woman happy or whatever the case is. And a lot of men self-sacrifice for that woman, and she's never fucking satisfied.
You can't win.
Very true.
You really
with,
can't.
with women,
you cannot
sometimes you just
win
can't win. So
not with a toxic woman. And at the end of the day, men should not self-sacrifice. They should still be able to be who they are in a relationship, and be able to do the things that bring them joy in that relationship, and you know, continue to prioritize themselves. They should never be last. At least, and when I think of a healthy relationship, that's what I see. Like, two whole people who know that happiness is a self-responsibility, is not dependent on someone else, and they've done the work within themselves to know, you know, how important health is to them, or whatever that looks like for them. And then they both come together, and that's how they add value to each other. You know, it's toxic to force someone to sacrifice themselves, their health, their being.
yeah, their circle, their group that
Yeah.
influenced them.
Everything.
That, in a way, got them to that point to where they are in their lives, to, you know, meeting her and, you know, being in the relationship with her. They were still around. Then, you know, they probably get deeper into the relationship. They get more serious. They get married, and then everybody disappears. Everything he used to do disappears, and it shouldn't be that way. You know, it's really true, you know, what is said, where, you know, women, children, and dogs and pets are loved unconditionally, while men are loved with the condition that they can provide. So men should wake up and really focus on prioritizing their health, getting in the gym, even if they have a family, fit it in somewhere. You know, fit in a half hour, 40 minutes somewhere, and do that. You know, get your friends group, or some group of your, you know, your close circle, whether you have 2 or 3 friends, and stick by them, because you never know when you'll need them. So I think those are important. I'm sure, along with some other things as well. And men shouldn't change that for anybody, for anything.
No.
What you can't do nowadays in this dating culture is we've been raised and taught our entire lives since we were kids in movies, you know, shows, and our parents raised us, because they come from a completely different time, to kind of prioritize relationships and getting married by a certain age. My parents are from Europe. They're looking at me like, why aren't you married? Don't you have kids? And I'm like, I don't feel like arguing with them, but I'm like, you don't understand. This is a different culture, different times. I wish it was the way it was when you got married and whatever year it was, but it's not the same game anymore.
And I still promote myself to everybody not to get married, even though I continue to see people get married, especially for men. If it's women, it's a little different, because when they get married, for the most part, they've won the game on their end. But the men, not so much.
The national average divorce rate in the U.S. right now is 42%. It's gonna depend on, you know, what region you are, what state you're in. Overall, nationwide, it's 42%. So it's like almost a flip of a coin.
Yeah, 70 to 80% initiated by women, and women with college degrees have initiated 90% of the time. So,
And the first thing that comes to my mind when I think about marriage is that a lot of women, they want to be brides but not wives.
Yes.
boom.
So
It's about the wedding, not the marriage.
right.
Yeah.
It's about just to say I got a ring.
Oh, I see it all the time. I see it all the
I
time.
have
They
a
want to
man
post.
that can, you know, give me money or whatever, and it's not about the substance. Like, a real woman realizes that she is a wife even without a ring. So it's
It starts before. It starts
exactly. It starts way before.
Or some women are okay with being mothers, but they don't want to be wives to their husbands. You know, they just want to focus on the kids.
I think when a man chooses, if he chooses to get married, you have to kind of see that way before in the relationship. That this is like, if I were married, like you should ask yourself, like if we were married right now, is this how I would want it to be? And
yeah,
then
those discussions have to take place way before. And I think a lot of people, because of the way society pushes things and how people have been conditioned and trained and to take on certain beliefs that are toxic, that are unhealthy, and they bring that back to a relationship. Yeah, it just.
I mean, let's dive deep into it. Marriage. Should men be getting married? What are your thoughts on that? Should men, consider marriage in 2024 with all the disadvantages that comes their way?
So, when I think about marriage, like me, I'm open to marriage. I just think that it's not easy to, find someone who is compatible and, or healthy, with me. Because it's like, it's about compatibility. Like a lot of people, they get attached to or they become entrenched with the feeling of someone, and it's like, okay, he makes me feel good, so I'm gonna move based on feelings rather than the substance of a person. Like me, I'm not looking for a feeling. I'm looking for a masculine, and I'm not really out there looking, but I'm just saying, my basis isn't, how he makes me feel. Like, is this man a man who can lead, who is transparent, who can be brutally fucking honest with me, even if I might not like it, but at least call me out on my stuff. I want to forever grow and evolve. The woman I was yesterday is not the woman I am today, and the woman I'm going to be next week, it's not going to be the woman I am this week. So it's just people get so entrenched and focused on shit that is not going to build the foundation of that relationship. So when I think about men, wanting to marry, that woman has to be an investment. She has to be an investment, and a lot of women are not.
Mm-hmm. They're not worth the investment.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see that. And marriage has really taken a fall because even though there are people getting married, there's not as many. There's not as many. I think there are some guys waking up, but there's some guys that aren't.
It's at a point where people are they're open to it. Like we're at that age group. We're in our mid-30s. People are open to it. They talk about it, but nobody's in a rush to do it. That's what it seems like. So
should people marry to just settle with someone because they couldn't find?
Hell fucking no. No, absolutely not.
The crazy thing is, though, that there are some people that just to get married, they do just say, okay, this person's good enough. I'll be okay with it. Mostly women, they'll settle with a man that, they think is capable.
And a lot of it is superficial shit. It has nothing to do with core values. In 2024, it's hard to find someone who has values, who has
Absolutely.
morals,
Absolutely,
who is educated or aware or wants to build substance or
it's very superficial.
Yeah,
it's very superficial.
Exactly. And so people move based on that, and they're like, oh well, wow, he takes me to 5-star Michelin restaurant, and oh my God, that makes me feel so good. So he's the best man in the world, and I must be the best woman in the world because he's doing this for me. And it's they move based on this superficial stuff and feelings. And I'm not saying you're gonna develop feelings for somebody.
Yeah,
you fucking like them, you're gonna like them, but I'm just saying, liking people when feelings began, people fucked up, and they move.
Feelings could cause you to make stupid decisions.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think we all have been there.
You overlook red flags. You You overlook a lot of things that are not going to be compatible with you, and then you end up progressing into something as serious as a marriage, to then it, later on not working out, rather than taking the time needed to first work on yourself. Because if you're not happy with yourself, especially being in your singleness and being alone, you're definitely not going to be able to add any value, and you're not going to be happy in any relationship.
No, it's very true. I think both men and women should be in the right place in their lives. And like you said, resolve any personal issues. You have to be in the right place mentally before you even get in a relationship. Because if you start a relationship and you're off, or you have some internal issues or anything like that, it's all going to come out later.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think with their hearts and they don't think with their brains enough. They don't realize that, this might not be a good idea. They just go with the feeling of, hey, this is going to make me feel good. Yeah, sure, but for how long? It only lasts a while.
Plus, a relationship you could always end. You can't reverse having kids. You can't reverse, well, you could reverse a marriage, but.
Now, do you have any experience? Have you ever been married, or what's any situation that you want to bring up by yourself, or?
Yeah, I've been married. I'm divorced 3 years now, and yeah, I was, we just weren't compatible, and I didn't have that insight, that awareness, earlier on, and that's why, no, that's not why, but I'm on a mission to help women develop their womanhood and be feminine, and kind of recognize compatibility, and being able to pour into their relationship and pour into their man, or uplift the men in their lives. So yeah, but that's all I can and will say.
Yeah. Well, I typically would say, sorry for what you've been through, but I'm sure you're better off now than you were, back then. That's why I'm sure you got divorced and you moved on to bigger and better things now.
Well, I mean, generally, I live with no regrets. Mm-hmm. I had to go through everything that I went through to get to where I'm at today, right. And everything played a piece in molding the woman that I am. So, yeah, I just take everything as a lesson. I'm not gonna, sit here and say that, oh my God, shit was terrible, whatever. I've only been in 3 long-term relationships in my life, but that was my only marriage. And yeah, so I just take things as.
How long were you guys married for, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, we were only married for 6 years, but together for almost 9.
Oh, wow.
Long time. Would it be something that you reconsider marriage, or is it something that you're like, I've been there, done that type of thing?
I'm open to marriage. I am. It's just, again, given 2024, and just finding someone who is compatible with me. Yeah. I'm not gonna say it's been a challenge, but I'm just saying I'm not in a rush.
Right.
And I'm willing to wait or take the time that it takes to, have that.
Yeah, it's definitely not easy on both sides out there, so I can see your point.
How long do you think people should generally date, since you've been married before you get to know the person, to at least get to a point where you can consider marriage? Do you think it's 2 years, 3 years, longer?
Yeah, because
it's going to depend on the person, obviously, but I've never been married, so I haven't experienced it yet myself.
Yeah, because I've seen some crazy stuff where, people know each other for 6 months, 9 months, and already, you want to know something crazy really quick? I know a guy, I hope he doesn't see this. I know a guy that dated a girl short term. They got married. I ran into him 3 months later, and he said we got divorced already. And they had a big banger, 2-day wedding. It was 2 different nationalities. They flew the family from another country, and they got divorced. I didn't even ask what went wrong, because at that point I didn't want to make it worse. But they lasted a few months. That's sad.
But they got into it very quickly.
It's sad. Yeah. I feel like it went maybe a big fight, and then all of a sudden
it could happen.
People just can't withstand each other and can't tolerate each other, and they try to break it off super quick because of it. That's what I think.
What do you think causes the most breakups and divorces nowadays? What do you think would be the main thing? I would say probably arguing. When it gets toxic, when you start to argue. Some people, I've heard also financial problems. A lot of marriages end over financial issues.
Yeah, I would definitely say the arguing and the finances. I've
heard about and witnessed to myself. But it just goes back all the way to the beginning where people don't take the time to, get to know a person, or they don't even bother looking for the qualities of a person. They just jump into things based on feelings and
That's
then
the problem.
realize that, oh,
Surprise.
shit. Yeah,
Surprise.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just, invested like all these years in a relationship just to realize that it's not, it's not.
It's very true. Earlier in my 20s, I had relationships where I was getting to that point where I was like, I might marry this girl, because it was all based on feelings. You're dating for a year and you're already like, oh, maybe I should start looking for a ring. And looking back at it, I'm glad I didn't do it, because obviously I was too young to begin with and I had no idea what I was doing. Like you said, it would have been a decision purely based on feelings. So
100%. But yeah, going back to that question, when should the time come where the guy should be like, okay, let me propose to, or both of them together, let's get married. When's that time where it should be, 3 months, a year, 5 years? Is there a time, or it just depends on?
Yeah, honestly, because everyone is different, so it's not again another situation that's not cookie cutter. Like, oh yeah, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, however. Like, it's just based on when you know that you're fully compatible with each other. And like, shit, this is really going to work, and we can continue to grow together, and we can continue to, build a strong bond and that strong foundation. And we can communicate with each other. We can, tell each, like respectfully tell each other, what we need from each other, or what, hey, I don't like that you did this, and be able to agree to disagree or whatever peacefully. There's a lot of, foundational pieces that go into it. And so however long that takes for those two people to know that, all right, I've seen all these foundational pieces and things are flowing well, then, of course it should be up to the man to take the next step. I personally don't advocate for women proposing, but...
do you think it ever gets to a point where a man's too old to get married?
No,
Like, is there a cutoff point? I think for men, I think you could.
So.
No, right?
No.
Yeah, same.
How about too young? Should he wait till he's 30 or 35 or past that? Like, a man proposing at 22 years old isn't probably the best thing. Guy probably hasn't started his life yet, hasn't built his financials, and
you have to be
experienced.
I mean, if he hasn't, again, it just really depends on everyone's individual journey. So, you have
to think, you have to be at very least financially stable and at a point where you have your life together before you even consider it. I think most guys in their early mid-20s aren't going to be ready for it yet.
Yeah,
they might think they are, but
you have to know how to spot a wife.
And spot a wife. Yeah.
Well, how difficult is that nowadays to spot a woman, to consider her to be wifey, as they like to say, wifey material?
It's definitely rare. It's rare. There's more toxic women than not. And there's not as many feminine women. So it's definitely a rare occurrence.
So is it fair to say that there should be women that are currently married now or about to get married that shouldn't be married in the first place?
Absolutely.
Oh. I think that's big. I think that's big for people to hear and understand. I mean, there's some women that are just not marriage material.
You know what? Another thing I see a lot, and this is another common mistake. I know guys that have done it themselves. They dated a girl. They didn't want to lose her. So either they married her or gave her a kid thinking that that's going to somehow lock her down. And they all found out that that's not the case. It's not going to hold her down because she could just divorce you and leave. You're going to have to pay child support, So again, I think that's an example of like a man trying to be a good man and prove himself. Like, oh, if I show her that, I'm there for her and I'll marry her and I'm husband material, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, but if a woman hasn't done the work to recognize the value of that
Correct.
man, that's not going to be she don't even see it.
Yeah.
It's not going to hold.
Correct.
Not going to hold.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where men should really, really weigh their options before they make one of the biggest decisions in their life. I mean, I would say one of the biggest decisions men are going to make in their lives is what, kind of house he's going to buy. because that's a big price. But also, what kind of woman you're gonna lock down for a future? And talking about women, being married, being divorced, what's your take on single moms? Is it something where these women are going to be able to find men easier that, now that they have been through it, they've been married, they have kids, or are they going to be going through this, difficulty of their lives by themselves? Are they going to just be single moms for the rest of their lives, most of them? What do you think about that? What's your thoughts?
So the first thing that comes to my mind is that a lot of single moms are single moms and single women because they chose to be, because they don't allow the father to, co-parent with them to raise their children. So me, while I'm single and I'm divorced, I don't consider myself a single mom because the fathers of my children are actively involved.
He's
in their
around,
lives,
okay. That's
so
good.
they may the first one rest in peace though, but
My condolences.
yeah,
Our condolences.
but a lot of women make that decision I'm a single mom, and I feel like I've witnessed part of it is attention seeking and just being the spotlight of the pity party and and things like that. But a lot of single moms are single moms because they chose to be, not because they have to be. Unless it was something detrimental, the father of your children died or something, then
Of course, something out of your control.
that's,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something
But,
natural that happened that you can't control.
now I feel like what I've witnessed, a masculine man, your children are not his responsibility. So, and a lot of women have the wrong impression, or unhealthy women have this bad perception that, that the next dude should be taking care of your kids. No. They have their father, and she made a conscious decision. A lot of women make conscious decisions to eliminate that father and try to replace it with the next man. And a true masculine man is not gonna, not to say of course they're gonna be involved to some level, and there's gonna be respect and things like that if he chooses to take on that
Role.
right,
Yep.
that role. But yeah, I think what's more attractive for a masculine man, if he chooses to take on that role, is that there's, the fathers are involved. There's a healthy relationship and a healthy dynamic in that area, and they don't have to take on a responsibility that's not theirs to take. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I see guys make that mistake where they take on, women with kids. They're single. I want to be there to save them. I'm going to save them.
Right, exactly.
But it turns out to backfire because, you may be with that woman for, 5, 10, 15 years. The kid might be 3 or 4 years old once you start being the acting father. And all of a sudden, the kid's 16, 17, you tell them to do something. They don't listen to you. Oh, you're not my dad. They don't listen to him. That's where guys probably think twice and oh my gosh, what did I do with my life?
But I also think it's the woman too. If she shows respect and she's submissive and she shows respect for her partner, then of course the children are gonna see that. So
It's a big one.
The woman play a role in that.
What the kids see in the household plays
Yeah.
absolutely.
Of course, if they see arguments and fighting, the kid is going to grow up with a bad attitude.
If you grew up in a toxic household, arguing and stuff like that.
Or if the woman disrespects her partner, then they were well, she don't respect him, so why should I respect him? And that's my mom.
Kids, it's they're sponges. They soak in everything.
Yeah.
They take everything in.
Yeah.
Everything.
So it just, again, it's up to the man. I know many men don't date women or want to get in relationships with women who have children, but there are men out there. After my divorce, I've dated masculine men, wonderful, healthy masculine men, and they knew that I had children, have children. So, so it's not to say that it's not out there. It's just about you know, how does that family dynamic look like?
So men should, if they want to get involved with a single woman, look for the green flags.
Yep.
Look for a woman that's going to treat them, you know, properly, and you know, same thing, bring peace to the household. You know, no arguments, respect, honesty, because I don't know, there's going to be some hate here, but women look that are single with kids, they look for a man to come in and save them. You know, and those are the women that men should be avoiding. You know, so I'm sure we can agree on that, because
Absolutely.
yeah, you know, men shouldn't be looked at as a financial, you know, a bank account, you know, just because you have 2 kids to take care of.
ATM transaction.
Yeah. Exactly.
I know women personally that are doing that, exactly that. They had kids, they got divorced, and they very quickly looked for another man that's going to be, you know, basically providing and playing that role, paying the bills, possibly paying for the schools and everything else involved. So, you know, I think if a man is a single dad, maybe has kids, and the woman has kids, I could see that working. But yeah, I think you have to be very careful with. I have nothing against dating a single mom. There's a lot of single moms that are attractive, and they would make perfect girlfriends. And you know, you just have to be careful, like you said, for the behaviors and the red flags, toxicity. So
Yeah, and I'm sure some of them, you know, meet across social media, which is big nowadays. And to dive into social media for a second,
Lord.
does social media have a big influence on dating and relationships nowadays?
Absolutely. Because again, people are attached to outcomes. They're attached to how people perceive their relationship and what people say, and they're entrenched in society and social media telling them how their relationships should look. Rather than deciding between those 2 people. Like, you know,
you're trying to fit a societal expectation,
right? Exactly. Like exactly. Like, for instance, like I've come across such ridiculous posts. Like, if he doesn't text you back in 4 hours, he has other women.
There's a lot of toxic.
And I'm like,
you know,
What if he's at work
there's
trying
a
to make
lot
some
of
money to take you out?
And I, you know, and honestly, technology, and has really.
It's a double-edged sword. There's so
Exactly.
much useful information, and you could get the right information, but there's a lot of misinformation out
going
there.
around.
And people get really into it. They you know, they'll listen to that type of stuff, and next thing you know, they're watching all those posts and like, yeah, they're onto something. Like, oh yeah, my ex did that, and you put yourself in a negative headspace that way too.
But not only that, but technology, the phone has become the whole definition of a relationship, or it's suddenly a man's reflection of his interest in you is solely reliant on if he texts you back in 4 hours versus how he shows up in the relationship. Like, people have become so attached to this shit, and it's like so much so they can't even think for themselves. Like, everything is based on that. Well, if he doesn't text me back fast, then that means he's not into me. No, that couldn't be any farther from the truth.
No.
Like, how did they do it back in the days? You
Yeah,
know, when they
and the
were
funny
married
thing-
for like 60 years.
The ironic thing
No
about it is,
phones.
on the male side, you have channels that are telling guys, like, when you go on a date, don't text her back right away because you don't want to seem too desperate. So you get what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's so like it's pushing people in the opposite directions. Yeah.
And I think just like people should really, you know, take the time necessary to assess what's going to work for 2 people. Like, me personally, I'm not a phone person. Like, I love to talk in person and get to know the person.
It's better that way.
Exactly. Like, words are nice, right? But also words are cheap. Like, how you show up and the way you show up and who you are is gonna tell me way more than what you can tell me in a text. Like, the actions speak louder than words.
Yep. Exactly.
Absolutely. And I'm a firm believer in that. So
Yeah.
I do away with the text, and you know,
Well,
I say.
how much time should men waste texting and talking to a woman over the phone before he said, you know, that he doesn't meet them? How long should he spend before, you know, until he says, well, you know, if I'm not going to meet her, then I should stop texting her. I should stop talking to her over the phone. What time limit? A day, a week. This, he doesn't see this is going anywhere. When should he cut it off?
Right away. It's not gonna go anywhere. Don't waste your time.
You're saying like to not be led on and like
Yeah, there's some guys that there's interest. Maybe they see each other's Instagram profiles online, or maybe one of them swiped right on Tinder, or Bumble, and they started messaging each other. And at one point, you want to meet the person. You want to get together and go on a date or whatever the case is, and take it from there. But how long should men be led on, I guess, per se? Because, a woman is technically leading on if she's just texting and communicating and maybe talking over the phone or FaceTiming, whatever the case is. When should men cut that off if there's no progression into an actual face-to-face meeting? Because you said right away, but right away is, maybe give them a day or two or a week, or, is a month too long? Yeah. I know guys that have texted women for months and they don't meet.
Yeah, catfish.
That's what it is. Yeah. Look, I think we had this conversation with our last guest about how many dates should you go on before you sleep with each other, right? And she brought up a good point. She said, well, women don't want to do it on the first date because they don't want to send the wrong message. They don't want to seem like they're like that. So I was like, okay, so how long should it be? Should it be the third day? And she kind of laughed. So it's an interesting question, right? Because guys are okay with waiting a little bit, but they don't want to be led on for months either, because you could make a clown out of yourself and just get catfished or led on, and she's sleeping with somebody else and has no interest in you whatsoever. She might just need the attention, right? So how long should the guy do it? It's a good question. I think you just have to be real with yourself. Like, is she into me or not? And if she isn't, just cut it. Yeah.
I mean, usually if you know about red flags, you're gonna see them like from the beginning. You are. And when like some way, shape, or form, you're gonna see a red flag pop up. So at that time, like at that point, I would say, cut it off. Walk, like, as soon as you see a red flag, bye. Even if it looks a little pink, bye.
Yeah.
Don't waste your time.
So it's like that gut feeling, that weird feeling that, this is not going to go the way
Your intuition. You gotta
expected.
trust your intuition.
Yeah. Follow your gut.
Like we
I mean, I personally don't believe that sex is an audition for marriage.
No.
Like, yeah.
That's not what we're saying. Yeah, no.
So, I mean, I guess it really depends on two people, like, and how they're aligning and how they're connecting on every level. I think some people, they, again, back to the superficial stuff, like, oh, you're physically attractive. Mm-hmm. We're physically attracted to each other, and they like go based off that. And that can definitely, I believe, ruins, any potential foundation to be built. Like, everything else can go out the window. But if you take a little time to see if you guys are aligned on many different levels, then, it just really depends on the two people. It's not like one straight answer.
So you'd say that sex on the first date obviously is not, a relationship potential killer, but also you shouldn't depend on that, for what's to come afterwards. You can wait probably a few dates, or, maybe a month into dating, and then eventually get to it and see, what each other is about physically, and see where it goes from there.
Yeah, it just really depends on the two people. Yeah. Because I've heard from women where, they've had sex on the first date and then they're still married, happily married.
Yeah.
20, 25 years later, 30 years later. And I've also heard the opposite where, it was 6 months and they're also successfully married or whatever. So it's just like, it really depends just on the two people.
Okay. Yeah. So, for the ladies out there that say, well, sex on the first date, I shouldn't be giving it on the first date because it could ruin things. Well, not necessarily. Sometimes things could blossom into, as you said, a marriage. So things could work out. It's not all bad. But obviously we're not here saying that first date, you go out and then you have to have sexual relations afterwards. It doesn't, we're not saying that either. So, okay. Okay. Now, we know that, based on the podcast you have, you're critical of women. So let's debunk this now, because we are also a podcast that for the most part is critical of women. Because of how we are and what we say, are we being, like women like to say, are we being misogynist, or are we actually saying and telling things how it is in reality by what you see here and seeing us before and what we're like?
Yeah, I mean, if women take shit personal, then, I'm a firm believer if it applies, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. If the shoe fits, fucking wear it, right? So if they feel some type of way, maybe, something they need to look at within themselves. And also, to a lot of people take shit personal, and really you shouldn't be taking anything personal. But, that's inner work you have to do. And men should have a platform to share all the obstacles, all the challenges that they encounter as a man, and that should be shared freely. So that's just my view on it.
Yeah, because here we say that, and we believe that women should be, loved and provided for and taken care of. Obviously, women, when they're feminine and they're accepting of that, yes, great.
It doesn't make you a misogynist.
Right. But, men should be able to say what's on their mind, even if it's a man dating that particular woman, being straight up, because that's how there's communication, there's more trust that's built, and it's better. It's not, see, women see it as, oh, he's criticizing me, he's being misogynist. They just go to that excuse. It's all on him, it's his fault. But as you said,
Toxic.
women, they need to see within themselves. They may be the ones that are toxic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I always tell women, like the women that I coach, or, any woman that I speak to, I'm like, the first step in being feminine is looking in the fucking mirror. You gotta look in the mirror and see all the work that you need to do within yourself. And if you can't see it, then, I would say if you have some type of spirituality, or, if you believe in a higher power, then go to that and ask it to be real, the universe, however, whatever you believe spiritually. But make sure you take all the time necessary to allow that to reveal. So, yeah.
100%. And I really see like some women, I feel like it's almost like they refuse to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they just live in their thing, and however they block themselves
everything
off.
is the man's fault, and then they just replace their issues with another man.
Yes.
And then another man.
Yeah.
And another man, rather than working on the issue.
At some point you have to stop and like be real with yourself.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Can you tell us more about how women, throw their faults on a man and they don't look at themselves? Like, what do women do? What exactly do they do for that to happen, and what can they do better to avoid being that kind of woman? Because that's something that, sometimes, most of the time, women are the problem. They need to figure things out themselves. So. Like, what do you usually advise when you're coaching? You said you coach some women. What do you usually advise them to do to avoid being that woman that just blame the guy and not looking at themselves and blaming themselves, taking accountability, because there's a lot of a lacking of accountability nowadays, and because that's where it starts, and then fixing things. How do they, start with taking accountability, and what exactly do they have to fix?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely complex, because it's like there's so many layers to it. So, I tell women, step number one, see where your problem is, and then once you identify that problem, then you need to figure out the woman that you want to be, and then build from that, and then you got to build your substance and your tolerance. So for instance, when I did my inner work, I wasn't always the most patient person, but to build my patience, because I wanted to be a woman of patience, I decided to put it to practice, and I would purposely go out to stores and stand on the longest line.
or I would, put myself out in traffic, like things that would build that character and that tolerance. So that's pretty much what I help women like identify those characters, traits that or qualities that they need to work on, and then I guide them to how to do that. Or I don't know. If that
So
really
see certain values and then build on those values, make themselves, worth it to be asked out on a date, to be taken seriously for a relationship, things of that nature. It's good. That's good. How many, if you don't mind me asking, how many women do you coach overall? Like, is it separate from the podcast, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's separate. Although on my website I have everything together. Like I have a men's health is dope section, feminine health is dope, and your health is dope. So it's like 3 sections, but the feminine health is dope and your health is dope is coaching. But the feminine one is like my primary, because like when I came across that post about the first time a man will receive flowers is at his funeral, like I knew at that moment, I wanted to be a voice for men and I wanted to have a platform, but I wasn't, although I was passionate about that, at that time, I wasn't aligned with that. And I was like, if all day long I can go and tell women, okay, you're going to go tell your partner that you appreciate him, or you're going to thank him for, I don't know, for working hard all day and still making time for you. And I can teach women that all day long. But the big part, if not all of it, is the inner work. So it's about being genuine too. Like,
Because they could take those steps and do it. But if it's not really genuine, very good point.
It comes from
very good point.
The inner work. So that's how I developed feminine health is dope, because I'm like, I need to teach women how to be feminine, how to build their womanhood, because it comes from the inner work.
Yeah, I think it's great what you're doing, because this is something that women have to understand, that for the most part it's within themselves, the issue. Most of the time the guy tries to do everything he can to get into a relationship, to maintain the relationship, and to keep it from falling apart. And keep in mind, like I said before, 70 to 80% of women initiate divorces, and it goes up to 90% if they're, they have a college degree.
Yeah, it's usually not the man leaving.
Yeah, it's usually not the man leaving.
In marriage.
He tries to keep it together for the most part. So that's great if that'd be great if it even spread more. So, I'm glad you're a voice for, for guys, and showing these women how to put themselves in position to get a great guy, because there's many great guys out there.
Yeah, there is. Definitely is.
Yeah.
That's really cool what you're doing. It's really awesome. I'm gonna definitely check it out. I want to listen into it.
100%. So it's been a great show so far. Any final thoughts? Any final message that you want to, put across to the people?
What's the name of your podcast again, so they could check it out?
Men's Health is Dope.
Men's Health is Dope on Spotify.
Check it out.
Spotify.
Yep. And then my website for feminine health coaching is www.healthisdope.com. And that's where my ladies can find me.
Yeah, we'll put everything down in the details once we put the video up.
Yep. And Instagram, health.is.dope.coaching on Instagram.
Are you taking any new coaching opportunities, or are you going with what you have for now?
Yeah, I still have a few slots open.
Hey, so if you guys want coaching, hit her up. Hit Katherine up.
Yeah, I guess my final thoughts is really just like more so to the ladies, like, gauge where your intentions are, because I think like that's a big piece in terms of being able to not only attract a good man, but keep a good man. So is your intentions. If they're transactional, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing what you said earlier with, women should focus on themselves, making the best changes, because every person is different, every woman is different, every man is different too. But make as many changes and adjustments as possible to become a better woman. I think that's going to help women.
Yeah, get to know yourself, know what you like, have some hobbies, interests, you know. Because for some toxic women, I mean, the man is their whole world, and that's never gonna work out.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
Awesome. Any
Final thoughts, like we said from the beginning of this podcast, I think there's a lot of toxicity in dating in general nowadays. I really do believe that women are being kind of led in, yes, an independent direction, but in also a toxic direction. I think men and women both have to kind of learn each other. And I think that's going to be the first steps to improving dating, because right now it's in a pretty messed up place. And I think it's really cool what you're doing, because I think women are more likely to listen to other women, and you're sending the right message and you're kind of guiding them back to the right place. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I want to add on the same thing, that it's incredible what you're doing. Not a lot of women are doing that. I wish there were more women stepping up and seeing the guy's point of view, which is really what we're trying to get the ladies to understand here, that we're not hating on women. Again, we love women. We want to make sure that they're protected, provided for, but they have to take the right steps to be worthy of that, right?
Yes.
And
work.
they have to put in the work. They have to focus on themselves and make themselves better, not just play the blame game, take accountability. So it's great that you're coaching women to be better women, because I'm sure the handful that you're coaching aren't the only ones that need it. There's many women that hopefully they see this podcast, they see this episode, and they open their eyes. They reach out to you and start learning some lessons, start doing some coaching, or maybe they get some advice from you, whatever the case may be. Listening to some of your Spotify podcasts, whatever it takes to really help them become better women. I think that's going to benefit them in the long run, and they're going to have better relationships because of it.
Yep.
All right. So on that note, guys, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. Make sure you subscribe to the Podcast Guys on YouTube. Again, we are on the Podcast Guys _ on Instagram, TikTok, and Rumble. And don't forget to follow our X, the Podcast Guys 5. And we will see you next time. Peace.